My name is Kennedy NG, and I am very happy to present to you tonight the Dream City, Union City, New Jersey, which will be an option for the community to know the good things that happen in this beautiful city.
The city of Union City, a cosmopolitan city where almost all of us have seen each other. We are like a large family that through the management of our representatives, they help our citizens. And our people do volunteer work because they know that the city is run by a mayor who has shown that he is not the common politician, but that he works for his community. This program is an extension of information where we are going to have participation of personalities from the public and private sectors so that they can keep us informed of the community. May that be educational activities and everything that benefits us.
Good evening, Union City, New Jersey, the Dream City. Tonight, as every Sunday, we have special guests, but tonight we have a very special guest, Dr. Anthony Dragona. Dragona is the business administrator of the Union City School District. He will bring a lot of information about education, business, the background of the school district, and a lot of information that maybe you didn't know, but you will find out tonight. I hope you all enjoy it. Good evening, Mr. Dragona, Dr. Dragona.
Good evening, Kennedy. How are you tonight?
I'm very good. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. I know you are a busy man, and I really appreciate that you are taking the time to come to the Dream City, Union City, New Jersey, every Sunday at 7 p.m. Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure, Kennedy, because I believe that in the past episodes you shared so much important information with the community. And it's information that they should know so that they could take advantage of the different programs and activities that take place.
Thank you. And this is one of the reasons that we are here tonight. Tony, can you tell me, or can you tell the Dream City a little bit about yourself and about your family, and why not your educational background?
Well, I was born and raised in Union City. I was a student at Robert Waters Elementary School, Washington, and I'm a proud graduate of Union Hill High School, back when we had the two high schools in Union City. I then went on to Jersey City State College, where I believe you also graduated from.
I graduated from there, yes.
So I got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree in urban education from Jersey City State. And, I try to practice what we preach, and we always say that our students should be lifelong learners. And just about 8 years ago, I got my doctorate degree because it's always good to get back into the classroom and continue to learn. For the last, since 1998, School Business Administration, and that's provided many wonderful opportunities for me professionally to get involved in the profession, whether it be through the New Jersey School Business Administrators Association, where I was fortunate to serve as president.
That's good to know. And what subject did you teach when the first year as a teacher?
I taught social studies at Union Hill High School.
Do you remember about those years?
I do remember it. I remember the building, the students. I always tried to be involved in the activities and be involved with the programs that the school was providing for the students.
How was the community in Union City? Because now it's like a large percentage of Hispanic and other cultures. And we're talking about what years was the first year that you started teaching?
I started teaching in 1975.
So what is the difference in talking about community in cultures?
In 1975, there were, I guess that was early on in the change in our population, but the change has been a change that has been for the better of our community. There's so much support for education in our community today amongst the parents and with the students, and I'd like to think it's because of the type of work that we do.
Do you still remember some of the teachers by that time that were your friends?
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, there are many of them that
Still teaching?
that are now retired, and but I still keep in contact with them, and many times we see them at a football game, at a Union City High School football game. I know that one of my mentors, Mr. Massara, who was an assistant principal and a football coach, he still comes to the games with his brother, and it's great to see these people.
That's history.
And it's lifelong friendships that you make in Union City.
This is a family.
That it sure is, and that's why in many ways it is the dream city.
You had a different position that you have now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I've throughout the years I've had a number of different hats to wear. I've been the business administrator since 1998, but for some time, probably about 14 years in between there, I was also the acting board secretary.
And how did that happen?
There was a vacancy, and I had no problem filling that vacancy. There's a lot of similarities between the business administrator and the board secretary.
How you manage the time to comply with both positions?
Well, when you're involved in it for such a long time, there are certain things that you know on your calendar when certain deadlines are coming up. So, we have monthly Board of Education meetings, and you have to make sure that everything is in order for the board members to be able to vote on it. But before that even gets to the board, there's a lot of research that's done in the background. So the beauty of the Board of Education in Union City is that you have leadership that you can trust.
Exactly.
You can trust the superintendent. You can trust the other assistant superintendents that they're working every day to make the best education for our children.
In what capacity did you feel the real Tony? Being the business administrator or the board secretary?
I would have to say being the business administrator, because remember, many times a school business administrator is someone who comes with an accounting background. My background was teaching. So when we prepare a budget or when we have meetings at schools, my head is in the mind of how can I help the student. So everything that we do, so right now we have a $330 million budget, right?
Wow.
And we've been fortunate that due to some of the unfortunate events that have taken place, we've been getting some additional federal aid. But as we look to apply those federal dollars, we have to say, what can we do to constantly benefit the student? How could we improve the programs?
Being a teacher and then having those positions, you focus in the kids.
Focus on the kids, and you know what the teachers are going through
And the
because
needs.
you were there. And yes, while the population has changed, the needs are still there. And maybe the needs are even greater now. So we have to be able to provide more. We have to be sensitive. We have to understand the families that we're dealing with. It's not just about the child.
If you have to go back to the classroom, you think that you have the energy to be a teacher again?
I would think education has changed as far as the classroom. I stay involved with technology and I stay up on the uses of technology. But there are a lot of challenges today for a classroom teacher that I probably didn't experience when I was teaching in 1975 to 1981.
Exactly. This is very, very now different. Technology, computers, it's another word now.
And there are also social, emotional needs that our children have. The pandemic seems to be easing up a little bit on us.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean that we haven't learned a lot of lessons from it.
That you remember, if you can say, what percentage of Hispanic population when you were a teacher? More or less.
When I was in the classroom, it was probably around 30%, maybe 35%. And today we're at 95%.
In other cultures were Italian.
Yeah, Italian, Irish, German.
And then the Cuban came to the picture.
Initially, there were probably more Puerto Rican students. Then there were Cuban students that came in, and that was really the boom in the late '60s and '70s.
And that's good to know because our community in Union City, now we see a lot of Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, but those years, the sequence of immigrants coming to Union City is good to know that. I think that the Dream City should know, how the city, the Union City community grow up in terms of culture.
It's culture, and it's also our roots.
Exactly.
Right? In order for us to be able to bring about the best, you have to know where we came from.
Today's day, can you talk a little bit about your responsibility at the board?
Sure. My responsibilities today as the school business administrator and also as the qualified purchasing agent.
And this is a new position that you are carrying on.
For the last 2 years, yes. So we have a $330 million budget, and you have to be able to administer that so that you can balance the programs that are being administered in the schools and provide the best for our students as far as the tools that they could use to learn, but also provide the best for our teachers to be able to deliver the content so that it makes it better and more exciting for our children to learn. So my job deals obviously with the budget, which is an annual collection of data, collection of requests, things that people want. Sometimes we could say yes. Sometimes we have to say, not right now. I never say no. I say not right now, because maybe right now, if you say I have to know today, I may have to say no. But you've planted the seed that we could use when we plan future budgets, because sometimes your view may not see the big picture. And we may have a new school that's being planned, but we haven't released all the plans yet because it changes from the time you put the pencil on the paper until you start putting the bricks on.
It is understandable.
Right. In addition to that, one of the jobs that I enjoy is being involved in food service. And there are so many tragic stories that came from dealing with COVID-19. But there are some success stories, and we have some success stories in Union City that we could share. And I think that it has brought the community closer together. And I think a lot of that has to do with when COVID hit, it was an emergency. And when you have an emergency, the only way that people have confidence is through leadership. And in Union City, under the leadership of State Senator and Mayor Brian Stack, he's prepared for emergencies because there's an open line of communication with the community regularly. So it's not like someone that no one recognizes coming and saying, trust us, we're going to do this. There's already a level of trust. So as a leader in the time of a crisis, when you have that recognition and you have a proven track record of being there to support people, it's easier for people to listen, and it's easier for the community to rise up throughout the crisis.
And we know the Mayor Stack is 100% pro-education, and he's there whenever and wherever we need him.
Well, he's here in Union City for us, but then he's down there in Trenton fighting for every dollar that he can get to bring back to the school district.
And that's very important.
It's so important to have an ally like that who understands and who's passionate about the community and helping out children. One of the things that was one of our successes was the fact that when schools closed in March of 2020, we had to rally, and we started distributing food to our students.
Do you know the amount of meals the city and the school distribute?
The Board of Education, through our partnership with Chartwells, who's our food service provider, we distributed about 4.4 million meals.
That's a large number.
It's a large number, but what we tried to do it in a way that didn't put anybody at risk. So we opened our schools 1 day a week, all of our schools, and parents could go to any school and pick up 5 days of breakfast and 5 days of lunch.
Tony, during COVID-19, personally, what was the impact when we decide, or you guys decide to close the schools?
There was so much unknown at that time, but we came together. Our senior administrators, the district leadership, working in conjunction with Mayor Stack and the community, working with our partners such as Chartwells and others. We had to gear up right away, probably like over a weekend or 3 days. We had to gear up and provide technology for our students. We had to provide internet access. We had to provide food and meals. Yet we had to make sure that our staff was safe.
You have to understand that the pandemic was something new for everybody.
Right.
And I was afraid, you was afraid,
Yeah.
and everybody was afraid.
Right.
Going back to the meals that the student got during the 2020-2021, was difficult to come up with the numbers of meals?
The biggest challenge was that we closed on a Friday and we wanted to start serving on the next Tuesday. When we closed on Friday, we knew that we didn't want to open all of our schools every day, because that would be exposing too many people
Exactly.
at one time. So we decided we would open our schools 1 day a week, and we had parents come in and pick up the meal. In addition to that, the state had other programs that were supporting families, like the PEBT, which was the Electronic Benefit Transfer Card.
Got it.
And that's why in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing mailings out to the parents, encouraging them to submit the National School Lunch Form. So in the last few years, we haven't had to charge our students for meals. It's always been free because of some of the exemptions and the waivers as a result of the pandemic.
And this information is only in English or is bilingual?
No, everything we do is in English and Spanish.
It is very important.
Right.
Tony, how is the communication between the administrators and the board of trustees? I understand we meet every month. How is the communication? Can you explain about that?
Well, I think it's interesting that you said the Board of Trustees, because that leads right to it. It's trust, right? I think that the Board of Education has trust in their administrators to do their job. At the same time, the administrators know that the Board of Education is there to support what's best for our students and our faculty and the community. So there's that great bond, and it's the open conversation that if there's a concern that happens a week after the Board of Education meeting, you're going to be getting a phone call, and we're going to ask your opinion. And sometimes we don't have to meet formally to be able to get your opinion. We could do polls, phone calls to be able to respond to some of those.
According to the NJSA 18A, records of the Board of Education should be well kept. Can you elaborate a little bit about that? Because this is very important.
Right.
Now, we are in 2022, but 10 years from now could be an issue, and those records have to be there.
Right. So the statute that you cited, 18A, are the laws of New Jersey that govern education. And that's the laws that provide for the creation of the position of business administrator, the creation of the position of superintendent, or the creation of the position of board secretary. The board secretary is also known as the custodian of records. As the custodian of records, they have to keep a log, a ledger of every Board of Education meeting, the minutes, the transactions that take place during that time. There is a record disposal schedule of how long we have to keep records. So there's a calendar in which you can dispose of it. But what happens is throughout the years...
And this calendar is produced by the state, yeah?
By the state, yes.
Can you describe the payroll system in our district?
Sure, we have probably about 1,800 employees. And then during the summer, we probably increased that a little bit by some recreation and some educational programs for the students over the summer where they go to class and then they get compensated a small amount. So keeping payroll functioning in a way that has to be accurate.
Difficult task.
It's a large task. It's a large task, but we try to work it so that we use ADP as our payroll processing company, which is a very large company, and they provide excellent service for us. But again, it all depends on the data that goes into the payroll so that you get the accurate amount coming back. So we could have beautiful schools. We could have all the best, latest technology. We already have great students and we have great parental support. But when an employee doesn't get compensated accurately, it means a lot because we don't know what that person's financial situation is. They may have automatic bill pay being deducted from their account and all of a sudden the paychecks stops for some reason. Fortunately, throughout the entire pandemic, no one lost a paycheck. Everyone got paid. So that, in order to accomplish that, that took time. And we have a small staff in payroll, but they're very dedicated and very efficient to be able to make sure that there aren't defaults where people don't get their check. We've been moving towards more people getting direct deposit instead of having to do paper printed checks, which could be lost or stolen in the mail.
And I believe that the system was like 100% during the pandemic because there was a lot of people complaining that I didn't get my check in companies.
Right.
So this didn't happen in Union City.
It didn't happen, and that's because of the dedication of the staff. That even though there were times where there was some staff that were struggling with COVID themselves, others were able to pick up the slack and make sure that the payrolls were transmitted and the payrolls were received.
The people working or the staff working in that department, they get training every year, so how that work?
Yeah, we have a very focused effort on providing training for all of our staff, not just in the business side.
Yeah, I understand that.
But we do. We keep doing refresher courses as we get new employees. We try to bring them up to speed gradually so that they're aware of the big picture. I just don't want them being in a silo. Everybody has to work
step
together,
by step,
and they have to know what's going on so that in the event that the person sitting across from you is out, you're able to pick it up and we don't lose that precious time.
I always think it is a good idea in any system that to have a backup of a backup. I know that you were a commissioner before, years back, and you know the city of Union City, and you probably can teach me or tell me what is the difference that you see back in those years and today's day in talking about education.
I think today there's a greater focus on providing the necessary resources to the schools. Back when I first started teaching, when I was commissioner back in 1982, it was more of a top-down budget. You would get an allocation and you would have to work it out. Today, there's conversation, there's open dialogue, there's discussion. We have a mayor who's also a state senator who can help us address some of those needs.
Sure.
So in order to be able to resolve some of those problems, we need help. And we need to advocate for what Union City needs. And we have the best advocate in the mayor.
Any plans for new school?
We do. We have one new school on the drawing board right now, and of course we have our eyes open to keep looking and thinking what we can do to provide the best for our community. We're looking to build a new grade 7, 8, 9 school, as a matter of fact, right down the block from where we are today. So I think that's going to provide the uptown area with a boost, because you know what the beautiful thing is, when you build a new school, not only is it a new great educational facility, it helps the community because you see the neighbors around the new school fixing up their homes, painting up, cleaning up, planting flowers, and it really
it's like having a new house.
it becomes contagious.
And everybody happy
Yeah.
in the community.
Yeah.
Can you describe, and I know for a fact, the Mayor Stack is 100% pro-education, the relationship between a school district and Mayor Stack?
Well, in Union City we have an appointed Board of Education, which is a good thing. I've worked under both systems, an elected board and an appointed board. I believe that under an appointed Board of Education, there is a similar philosophy amongst the board members, the town fathers, and the administrators. So when we're doing our daily job of doing the work, and we're representing you as a board trustee, and we're representing the town fathers and the mayor, there's an understanding of what our goals are, and I think there's a great collaborative effort for us all to work together to achieve those goals. And that makes it so much easier for us as administrators to administer, and you as a board member to govern. And then we know we have places to go when we need assistance that can open the doors for us and at least allow us to have a conversation. It's nice to be able to know that you could have a conversation with someone that's in Trenton, that's in a department, that's willing to listen to the needs of Union City. And that helps. That helps us do our job, and it helps us have a vision of where we want to get to in the future.
This is Dr. Anthony Dragona. A lot of information. I learned a lot today, Tony. Thank you for coming.